Download the podcast at kcaaradio.com.
KCAA, 1050 AM, 106.5 M, the stations that leave no listener behind. Good afternoon. I'm Mark Westwood, sitting alongside my good friend, Donald Williamson, the host of the Donald Williamson Taxsaver and More show. Good afternoon, Donald.
Good afternoon, Mark, and all you radio listeners out there at Radio Land.
Yeah. Well, Donald, it's a privilege and honor to sit next to somebody who has done what you've done in your life, a former tax assessor for 3 terms, ran for tax assessor one more time, and then, a full life of service and generosity with all kinds of different nonprofit organizations, and always have your wallet open and donating to people. And today's show is no different. We're going to have somebody on that you pulled some cash out of your wallet to help at the Smiles for Seniors dinner that honored seniors who help other seniors. And that's Merrill Nazareth, who is the director of something called Healing Waters, a service at the Catholic Church in Banning, or Beaumont rather, in Beaumont. And don't ask me to pronounce the name. It's not like St. Joseph or St. Paul. It's an Indian name, and I don't want to butcher it. So I'm just going to say the Catholic Church in Beaumont. But they do a very unique service where they provide showers and mobile showers for clothes and stuff for people to come twice a week. And it just really is. And Lillian Vasquez has interviewed them. And the second part of our show, we're going to hear more about that from Healing Waters. And on one part of the show, I'm going to talk about some interesting and exciting things happening in our parks department and what's happening with our KCAA phone lines and various different things, and discuss my birthday, too. It's coming up. But first of all, I wanted to introduce you, Donald Williamson, the procurer of nearly 300,000 votes in the State Board of Equalization District 1 race, which is very, very, that's very decent. There's nothing to be shamed about that. You didn't exactly win the race, but you sure got one heck of a lot of votes. And with about maybe 20% of the money spent as your opponents did. So congratulations, Don. A big round of applause for you. Congratulations, Don. And you're to be commended for stepping forward. And you fought hard, you were putting up signs yourself and everything else. And I got to admire you. Sometimes I have a hard time keeping up with you going down the hallway. And you're about 20 years older than me. So, which brings me to my birthday in a little bit. We'll talk about what my plans are. And we'll go from there. But right now, you want to talk about something very interesting to help people, worthy people, save money. Is that correct, Don?
That's correct. But remind me, since that is a Catholic church, I got a little bit of money left over from my running for the BOE. Mm-hmm. And I might give them a little more money.
Okay.
And because I got to close out the account anyway.
Okay.
And
we'll talk about that off air. I don't
have
any idea how that happens. But
we'll see that. But there's, I want people to know I'm always working
But thank
for
you,
them.
by the way.
I'm always thinking of ways to help them and remind them. And during the election, I called the State Board of Equalization because my church I go to in Rialto, United Methodist Church, the minister lives in a parsonage. And this is something I always, for years, I've thought that they should have the exemption on that.
What's that about parsnips?
Parsonage.
Parsonage. Oh, is that what they call the house that they live in?
That's correct.
Okay.
And it's occupied by the minister. That's the key. And but I asked him, his name was Jose, and I said, Jose, are you paying property tax on that? And he said, yes. I said, well, I'll check into that, because that shouldn't be. And I talked to a person at the State Board of Equalization, Tess Moorhead, and she told me as long as the minister is living in it, and to get what they call a welfare exemption form, the welfare exemption form, and not the religious form, which is for the church, not the church exemption form, which is also for the church, but to get the welfare exemption form. And to get that, and along with it, you need to get the instruction sheet and the information sheet. And then after you get that, I suggest you go to the assessor's office. By the way, you can get that form you have to get it from the assessor one way or another. You can get it off their website. You can go in and get it. But remember to get that information sheet and instruction sheet, and then look at it, be familiar with it, and then go in. I suggest you might want to take a stab at filling it out, but I suggest you go into the assessor's office and sit down and get help from. They're the experts, and get some help from them in filling that form out. And
why not? I mean, it's going to save money.
And if you get one, try for 3 back. I don't guarantee it, but I helped some American Legions, which I want to talk about in a second too, years ago, and we went 3 years back and we got it. So you might get 80% of it. They charge you for filing late, 20%. Okay, now having said that, now we're going to move along to the American Legion at VFW. There is a form called a claim for Veterans Organization exemption. Well, sometimes they have trouble with that form and getting the exemption for some reason. So I talked to this test board head about that too. And she told me, and by the way, she is the manager of that section for the State Board of Equalization. And she told me that for them to get the welfare exemption for that one too, which surprised me. So again, if they're going to use that, they need to get that information sheet, to get the instruction sheet, and that's the welfare exemption form. And she mentioned that they'll probably need a OCC number, Organization Clearance Certificate number. The problem with that number, they're probably going to have trouble finding it if they can find it at all, because it was stored more or less at the State Board of Equalization. And I think they changed their computer or something happened and a lot of them got lost. And so they may not come up with that. If they've ever had it, they may have it in their files. I'm talking at the organization, South American Legion, or VFW. And so anyway, that's another possibility in getting it. And if they're successful, I'd like them to call in and tell us. If they have trouble somewhere along the way, they can call us on that too, and I'll call Tess Moorhead on that and see what I can do to help. So anyway, that's the 2 main ones I called about today. Next week I may have 2 more, but I wanted to let people know, running for office or not, I'm still thinking of them and trying.
And we are grateful for that, and grateful for your generosity and helping. What a wonderful thing to do, and there's a lot of churches that are in that. So the definition of a parsonage in an Episcopal church is different than like a Catholic church, which calls it a rectory.
That's correct.
Now,
That's
the
where
rectory is where the priests live, and it's all part of one organization. So they treat it differently tax-wise, from what I understand. This is crazy. But a parsonage is where a minister lives who happens to be married and has a family, and so they have something different. The Episcopal Church a lot of times calls it a parsonage, and that is property that is taxed. But the law changed, as you said, and it would be good if these Episcopal churches applied for that. And you can contact Donald Williamson. Now, you said something kind of funny, and I chuckled. And let me get into this for a few minutes. To call you. Well, in order to call you, they'd probably have to call the radio station.
That's correct. I wanted to do it, call the radio station.
Oh, slowly I turn, step by step. So on May 14th, I was on the phone here at KCAA, and all of a sudden the lines went dead. Boom, dead. And I thought, well, what's going on? I called, and there's an outage in your area. That's what they were saying. And went on for a day or so, and finally, I get people out here to repair. The guy showed up to repair it, said, it's not in your building. It's not anything to do with you. There is a break in the lines up the street. So then I proceeded since May 14th to be calling Frontiers, the phone company, which once you get somebody in, I think it's the Philippines, who's not in the local area. They have no front-facing office where you can go in and complain or ask or anything else. And all these people doing is working off of prompts. If the client or the customer says this, then you say this. If you say this and the customer says, then you choose. And they have prompts. And it's the same thing over and over again. They're working on it. And we found out it was at 5th and Sierra Way. It was a construction project at 5th and Sierra Way. And so for the next 2.5 weeks, I'm trying to figure out a look, and there's no Frontiers trucks anywhere. And the only construction project I can see at 5th and Sierra Way is the renovation of the park. People call lot 5th Street Park. It's actually called Seckham Lake, named after a couple of mayors here in town. And there's lots of things going on there, it looks like, from the outside. So about a week later, after all this going back and forth, I decided I'm just going to drive onto the park and find the project person and find out what's going on. And so I drove around the park a couple of times. I found one gate. It was sealed up like an embassy, but you could see work trucks. And around the outside of the park, it looks really nice. They're really doing a good job. So I found a gate that was open because they were getting a delivery. I drove in there. And I drove around the park, and I couldn't find anyone. This was a Friday, and it was 11 o'clock in the morning. Couldn't find a soul anywhere. There were some trucks there, and I pulled up against a truck that had pipe on the back of it, and I said, do you know where I could find, and I'll leave the guy's name out, who is the project manager. He's around somewhere, but I'm just delivering pipe. I don't know much. And they said, I think there's some people over there, and I drove over there. There was nobody. I could literally find no one in the park. Now, this is a $13 million renovation that's behind schedule. It was supposed to be finished in the spring this year. Of course, we're almost in, I think, summer, maybe. Is it summer right now?
Just a couple days shy of summer, yeah.
A couple days shy of summer. Anyway, couldn't find anybody. I called everywhere around the city. It wasn't getting responses. It was pretty, I called up Spectrum, where, Frontiers is going to lose their $1,000 a month account. And, Spectrum's already installed some of our listener lines for people to call in, although they're not our good phone numbers yet. Those have to be ported over. And tomorrow they're going to install finally a business line. And then on Tuesday next week, they're going to be installing our voice over IP lines. And we're going to have 10 different accounts on that. And so we'll get our phones back up and then hopefully get our phone lines ported over so that we're losing business all left and right, Don, because our customers are trying to call us, maybe place orders, trying to verify orders. I've gotten calls on my cell phone. People look my name up and they say, why aren't you answering your phone? Because when you call the phone lines, they just ring and ring and ring. So here's what turned out to be. Finally, the Civil Works Director for the city of San Bernardino called me back. He was on vacation, and apparently there was nobody to back him up to check his voicemail or whatever. So he was on vacation. He called me back one morning, and we discussed it, and we found out that, it wasn't. Well, the project manager also called me. It was Frontiers that the lines were broken, and it wasn't anything the city workers did digging-wise, but that they were having new power installed, and this is what's delayed the park renovation, by Southern California Edison. It hadn't been done yet, and they came in to install some power panels and things like that, and they also got into a vault underneath the street, and that vault underneath the street is literally 500 feet out our door and right around the corner, and that's where the line got severed. Southern California Edison didn't tell anybody they severed it. Didn't tell anybody. The project manager didn't know. The city didn't know. I wasn't getting a response from the city, and Frontiers in the Philippines wasn't responding. Finally, I find out more of this because the project director sent me pictures of Edison. They're date stamped, what they were doing, that said, Southern California Edison was working on May 14th, right when those lines went out. So it's kind of proof positive. Number one, that Edison caused the problem. Number two, Frontiers didn't respond. And number three, the city was just in the dark and wasn't responding to me either. So it was a difficult time. It still is. We have no phone lines. And that's a tough thing. And try to run a business without phone lines. We have cell phones, but, it's a safety thing too. So that's the tumult and the turmoil I've been going through. And really, with what's going on here in this radio station, there's one good shining bright at the end of the tunnel, the shining light. And that is June 24th. It is my crown birthday, they call it, when you're 63 and I was born in 1963, so that's called the Crown birthday, and the Golden Crown birthday, actually. And I can make a decision to retire or not. And in this next week, after what's been going on around here, probably by the end of the week, I might announce I'm retiring. Not doing it quite yet, but I'm about to leave. So
You can't do that.
yeah, well, a lot of people are going to say that, but you know what? I'm better off maybe. Anyway, it's the first time I've ever said that in public. I've just about had it. Throwing up my working here in San Bernardino and everything, it's been really difficult. And not getting a lot of response on either side of a couple of walls. So, maybe it's time for me to exit and take my little other radio stations with me and go operate somewhere else. So we're getting close. We're getting close. Much more. I'm going to pack up my desk and walk out. But let's get on to something more happy. I've got a nice birthday celebration planned for June 26th, and going to have some friends over to the Redlands Bowl to watch a concert at ELO and maybe have a little picnic and try to be positive. I've had 16 years here. I've loved a lot of it. And I do love my job. One of the things I love about my job, Don, is that I can do a lot of good. And part of that is that some of the good is for San Bernardino, believe it or not, for the Parks and Rec Department, working on a project for them to help get their Roosevelt Bowl, it's called, restored. And, I've been influential with a lot of things and be able to, when we have a subject we need to talk about, come on the air. But I do have 2 other radio stations. So anyway, moving forward, to be positive, there's a lot of good things happening in our community, also in Yucaipa. And various other cities. Don, homelessness knows no boundaries. Homeless people don't look at the city boundaries when they're in a city. And a lot of people say San Bernardino has a lot of homeless because they're a big city. But, so does Yucaipa, so does Calamasa, so does every city in the whole area in Southern California. And you know why?
Why?
The weather. You could be homeless in Bismarck, North Dakota, but you don't want to be homeless in Bismarck, North Dakota in February or January or December. It gets a little cold.
It's getting kind of hot here.
And it gets hot here, but you'd rather be in the heat to find some shade than in the bitter freezing cold or outrunning a tornado or something like that. So, one of the things is we have a lot of homeless, and we have to figure out how to eliminate homelessness, how to be compassionate, how to help people. Sometimes our government, especially in the federal United States, is cutting with one big bill. After the midterms, they're going to cut Social Security, they're going to cut Medicaid, they're going to cut a lot of welfare, EBT, all the stuff, deep cuts into it. They've already done it. They've already passed the bill. But, they're smart. They said, the Republicans in Congress are, we're not going to do any of that until, after the midterms so we can get reelected again and people won't feel that hurt. But if people feel the hurt, okay. But, of course, Donald Trump did one good thing for us all. Not a good thing, but pretty helpful, is he started a war and the gas prices went up through the roof. So now he's losing a lot of support.
That's a good thing?
It's not a good thing, but it's a good thing to get people elected that will better represent us. Anyway, and, it's kind of hard to say things sometimes the way it comes out sounding.
We got double taxation on gas?
Well, probably so, yeah. Triple amount of taxation.
The feds have a federal excise tax, and then after they add that to the price of a gallon of gas, then they multiply the sales tax onto it.
Yeah.
So you're actually paying tax on tax.
Yeah, and then there's taxes that the voters imposed on themselves. So there's all kinds of stuff. Our gas prices are higher than a lot of places in the United States. Not New York, not Florida, and close to Texas, but a lot of other Midwest states tax in a different way. So we tax through our gas because we have more roads than anywhere in the nation, by far. Probably a million or so more miles than freeways and roads and bridges and everything else we have to take care of than like South Dakota or North Dakota.
I call that taxation without representation, having double tax.
Yeah, well, it is.
I was going to order that stop, but I ain't going to be there now.
Yeah, well, a lot of people wanted to stop it, but then we have to figure out how you're going to pay for things too. But all that said, there's no easy answer to anything. And where I was going with this, I lost track of. But I will tell you that what we need to do is be more compassionate. And sometimes it takes churches and nonprofit organizations to be more compassionate.
right.
And what we're going to talk about after this next break is a wonderful place that I heard about. I didn't realize the extent they were doing it. A couple days a week, bringing in 4 showers, portable showers with hot water and soap and towels
Terrific.
and clothes for people, and so that people who are unhoused, we don't like to call them homeless, but unhoused, and can go get a shower and just do some basic stuff to provide dignity to people. There's no dignity when you walk down the road. And a little joke here is related to this, and that is that what do Californians come and say to someone who smells? Well, you know what? I got to back this up. What was the word said when California was discovered? It's part of our state thing. Eureka, right? And when Californians come against people who smell, sometimes they say, Eureka. Bad joke. But no, there's no dignity when you know that you smell, when your clothes are dirty, when you're having to eat with filthy hands, and there's no dignity to that. And that helps provide and further deepen homelessness and depression and maybe drug use that's caused. If you weren't a drug user, you might want to escape, or an alcohol or substance abuser, you might want to escape when you're on the streets by doing that. Well, this is a little bit of help. It takes a lot to do this little bit of help, but it's such a great service. Merrill Nazareth founded this, and it's called Healing Waters. And in the next segment, Don, we're going to hear from Healing Waters, and we're going to hear all about this program. And this is an interview by our one and only wonderful Lillian Vasquez, who is our news person here at KCAA. So with no further ado, I'm going to say goodbye right now. You're going to say goodbye right now, and we're going to hand it over to Lillian.
Bye, all your radio listeners. I'm working for you.
KCAA, 1050 AM and 106.5 FM, the stations that leave no listener behind. I'm Mark Westwood.
Tell me what Healing Waters is and what your dream was for it.
So Healing Waters is a place where we give showers to the homeless, the indigent, to those in need, in order to give them dignity, in order to bring about healing so they can feel good about themselves and know that they can change their life. And my hope is that with the love that we give them and with the support we give them, that they will want to change their lives and to get back into mainstream life. And so by introducing them to services that are available to them from the county and from different organizations, we can help them and meet their needs so that they can become, contributing members of society.
And how did you come to this idea? What did you envision? What did you know you wanted to do? Or what did you see that you said, we as a team can change that? What was it that you were seeing that was making you wanting to change?
So a long time ago, maybe in 2012, I was doing the count for banning. And the count is where you go around through the city and you find out how many homeless there are. And so I did this for 2 years. And I know that the city would take us, we would ride with a police officer at 5:30 in the morning, and we would count how many homeless there were. But we did not always go to places where the homeless really gathered. When we met them, we filled out a form asking them how long they'd been on the streets, what got them there, had they been in prison, all those important questions. And I would ask them, what is it you would really want? If I could give you something, what would you really want? Food? And they'd say, no, we always get food. Well, do you want a place to stay? Yeah, but not so important, but we'd like a shower. And so many people said to me, we smell so badly that nobody looks at us in the eye. Everybody pretends we do not exist, and we know we smell really badly. So we take bird baths at fast food restaurants, but nobody likes us to be there. What would it be like if we could get a shower? And so then I thought about it. I became secretary for Faith in Action, which at that time included quite a few churches in the Pass area. And I brought up this subject almost 2 years in a row, and I'd say, can we have a shower? Can any church provide a shower? And no church could do it because congregations do not like the homeless around them. And so they don't have bathrooms and they don't have showers. And so I started investigating this. I went to city council. I asked if we could use the area where we have the pool, the Banning pool, if they could use it. No. Could they use the showers there? No. The showers in the, in the parks are closed. The bathrooms are closed after a certain time. So where do they go? And then at city council meetings, everybody complained that the homeless were defecating under bushes. And so I made a suggestion. I said, I would find people, if we could get a porta potty and put it in a place, I would find people to man it and I would make sure it was clean. But no, that was turned down. And so finally I was praying a lot about it. And I don't know how many doors I knocked. Had I been a pastor, I think I could have gotten a church and congregation to do something. But I was not a pastor. I was just a simple single person that had this idea. And so then I joined a group. There was a group that decided, okay, we'll take care of the homeless during the hot weather and the cold weather. But that didn't go very far. And then one day it all happened. There was a pastor of this church, a priest, who believed in me. And he had an organization. He said, well, would you join me? And yes, we'll give showers. And he talked to the pastor here. And that's how I got a place. But that was the first. That was just the start. And then I kept looking for a portable shower unit. And somebody told me that FICC, which is Freedom in Christ Church, was building one. So I went over to them and I said, are you building a shower unit? And they said yes, because one of their members had a dream that he wanted to serve the homeless. I don't know how God brings us together. It's when it's the right moment. And this was in 2018, late 2018, 2019. And so that's what happened. They got a shell. They were building the shower. I offered to give some money to complete it. They thought it would only cost $20,000. It ended up costing $22,000. So I wrote a check for approximately half the amount. And the shower was built. And they in return said they would bring it to us. And since I had this relationship with the priest here, he said, yes, you can bring it into the compound at the back where the school is. And that's how the shower pulled in, and that's where we started our first shower in 2019.
On your Tuesdays and Thursdays, when they come to the congregation here or this grounds, what happens?
Okay, so when the homeless come here, we offer showers on the same days as Carol's Kitchen offers food. So we're already getting a large contingent of people who are not necessarily homeless or unhoused, not necessarily who are indigent, but even women and children, elderly people who come here to eat. And so we decided, okay, this would be a great time and a place so to offer showers approximately at the same time that Carol's Kitchen was open. So on Tuesdays and Fridays from 10:15 to 1 o'clock, we offer these showers. The mobile shower unit comes to us on Fridays, and it has 2 showers. So when they come in, they sign up. So we have their first name and just the first initial of their last name in order to secure their privacy. And so we get to know them, they talk to us, we pray with them. So the day starts with a prayer. We stand in a circle, we hold hands and we pray. And we ask that God gives us the grace to look at one another as brothers and sisters, and that in serving Him, we serve them, and that they see Christ in us and we see Christ in them, so that dignity is guaranteed in that sense, because we see them as brothers and sisters. So after we pray together, then they already have their names down and more names are added. And then they ask for clothes. And so we have a list and they ask for underwear. So we give everyone who wants it brand new underwear and brand new socks. But then we give used clothing. So it's whatever they need, pants, shirt, whatever. And when they go in for the shower, they have 10 minutes for the shower. 8 minutes. After 8 minutes, we knock at the door so that they have 2 minutes to get out and get dressed. While they're waiting to take the shower, we talk to them. We hear their stories. We pray with them. And they are so forthcoming. After a while, I think building trust is so important. And once you build this trust, they will tell us some of their anxieties, some of their situations, and we will try to help them. In fact, we will connect them if they want a job, then with Salvation Army. If they need a place to live, maybe now there is a group called Faith in Action that tries to get them, not only their EBT cards, but also a place to live. So we are connected with a lot of different organizations. And then on the third Friday of the month, we have a medical group. We have maybe 6 or 7 medical students. We have at least 2 doctors and a wound nurse. And we are open to give service, not only basic medical care, but examinations. We can even get them medication if they don't have any, help to get that.
So you talk with them, and you don't do this by yourself. So how do you get your volunteers? Are they people from your congregation? Because you said you can't possibly yourself talk to all of them. So tell me how that process works.
So when we first started, we had about 30 volunteers, and it was wonderful because there was a large group of people who needed showers. There was always someone to talk to them, someone to help get them clothes, someone to pray with them. Gradually, this is 2019, remember, and then, of course, we had the pandemic, and now we are about 8 of us or 9 of us. We're always looking for more volunteers because we not only talk to them and pray with them before they go for the shower, but once they come out of the shower, we're there for them. We do their laundry. We launder about 100 pieces of clothing because we give them a towel and a washcloth. And then we sanitize the shower after each individual person takes a shower. This way we ensure that nobody can get sick. But all of this is so important because it takes time and it takes energy. So, of course, and then people bring in clothes. So we also have to make sure that we enter all of it in. We give out clothes, we make sure we do that. But during all this time, we also have haircuts. So during the showers, we also give haircuts to a lot of people, maybe 8 to 10 haircuts. So on Fridays, when we have the double showers, we give as many as 18 to 22 showers. And on Tuesdays, the most we can do is about 12 or 14.
So volunteers are necessary. And what would you say it takes? Because there's so many different types of volunteers and certain people have different skill sets. But what are you looking for from a volunteer to help in this environment?
I think someone that has a heart to serve those that are less fortunate. Someone who comes in with this desire and smiles and welcomes them and gives them, makes them feel important, just talks to them. I think everything falls in place. Of course, we do chat with one another. We spend a lot of time talking to our clients. But most of all, I think I want someone to be happy to be here, happy to be of service, and just willing to do anything that is required to be done. Talk to them. Sometimes we have to help them out of the shower. Sometimes we have to help them dress. Sometimes we have to mop the floor. Sometimes we have to take dirty clothes and count them and wash them. And then when we wash the clothes of our clients, we have clips, different colored clips so that we can identify them when we put them all into the laundry because we can put 2 people's or 3 people's laundry in at the same time.
When you're volunteers and yourself, what are some of the stories that you hear from your clients without divulging their privacy? But what are some of the stories that you hear so that other people hearing this will think, I don't always think about that person and that they have a story behind them?
So many people tend to put the unhoused, put them in one box and say they're all the same, they're homeless, they're useless, they don't want jobs. But after talking to so many of them that we know by name, their stories are really, really sad. Some of them, for instance, we have young men that I've met that lived with their mothers. They had Down syndrome and no provision was made for them. And when their mother died or their parents died and they had to vacate the home was sold. And very little provision was actually made for them. They haven't learned how to manage, and so they are on the street. The other group that breaks my heart are elderly people who now, in fact, we have a man right now who is taking a shower today, and he was living with his long-term girlfriend, and they had an apartment. But when she passed away, just maybe about 8 weeks ago, he found himself unable to pay the rent for their 1-bedroom apartment. And he had to give up the apartment, and now he's living on the street. I met another man who had such high bills on his house. He had taken a second mortgage and a third mortgage. And when his house was sold, he had to sell the house when his wife died. He was on the street. He was a veterinarian. And we found him a job in Palm Springs. So, it happens to the best of us. There, but for the grace of God, go I. And then there are those who are bipolar. There are those who have mental issues who do not take the medication. But a large number, maybe 20% of the homeless that are with us actually have jobs. And they work at night cleaning bays, cleaning places, I guess, grocery stores, for instance. One of them complained and said to me that he goes out early morning and he works. He has a backpack. He doesn't know what to do with his backpack. It gets stolen every time. He hides it under the bushes. And he said to me, if I could only find a place where I could drop my backpack in the morning and pick it up in the evening, I would be a contributing member of society. I wouldn't have to worry so much about losing my EBT card every time. And then I say to them, well, why don't you leave your EBT card with me? And they say, but we need it. Well, why don't you leave your birth certificate with me? Well, we need it. The problem is that some of them live in the ravine and out in the fields, and they're given notice that they have to move. But when finally the police come to move them, they come very early in the morning. And yes, they've been given notice, but they hide their stuff under various bushes, and they're not given time to pick them up and take them. And so they ask me, so where do we go? It's too expensive to rent a place. We can't afford it. And I know quite a few people that are living in their cars. They have jobs, but they're living in their cars because they cannot afford even a studio apartment.
You don't do this by yourself. You said you have other partners or other churches that you collaborate with. Tell me about some of your partners that you collaborate with.
So Set Free is just down the road, and they are the ones that now run the portable shower. We contract with them to bring the portable shower. So they bring it to us on Friday, and they take it down to Cabazon on Monday. But we pay for the water, we give them the towels, we do all the laundry for them. So it's in a way something that we had dreamed about, and they help us implement that dream by coming to us and helping us, and vice versa. So they have a place where they have like a recovery place, and they take both men and women. And so we are able to, if the person that we have, if our clients are willing to go there, but there are certain restrictions, to a large extent, you have to figure out what medications are they on. They are not allowed to use their telephone for the first couple of weeks. And I guess it's going from one addiction to another. They are introduced to Christianity, to Christ, reading the Bible every day, going to services, and it's replacing their addiction with a promise of love and Christian love and fellowship. And I think that's what changes them too. They have a woman's home and a men's home. So they are our best partners and then there's another group, which is Faith in Action, which is a group here in Banning. And they try to find accommodation for people. They also try to help them get whatever the state gives them in terms of financial need and help. But there are lots of other organizations. We work with the county of Riverside and with the city in order to get whatever services we can get them.
So you mentioned that you pay for this and that. So I have a twofold question here. Where does the money come from? And the clothes that you have clothes here that are slightly used or gently used or lovingly used. You have new underwear and socks. So that costs money. So where does it all come from?
Okay, so periodically, every couple of years, we do a sock drive. Just recently, there were 10 churches in the Pass area that became partners with us. And we took a bin there and we sent a letter to these churches, and they just address their congregation and they talk about the need that we have, because socks go to everyone. So this time we got something like 3,600 pairs of socks. A couple of years before that, we had something like 4,000. We take these socks and they come in all sizes for children, women, men, and we give them also to fire department. We give them to the high school, the middle school. We give them to organizations that need them. So we spread them around, and then we keep whatever is the residual amount. And we just give them freely to everyone. So nobody has to even take a shower to get a pair of socks. Everybody needs a pair of socks. And socks are the one thing I think we don't wash. Socks and underwear. Our clients tell us that we wouldn't want to wash their underwear, so they get thrown out. So underwear and socks, that's why they're brand new. I've tried using, tried taking used socks, so gently used socks, but we ran into the problem, we spent so much time trying to match them that it just wasn't worth our time. But people are really generous. So at Christmas, many of the churches, and our church in particular, St. Kateri, all I have to do is make an announcement in the bulletin, and the bins get full of whatever it is I need. So if I need, the greatest need I have, of course, are jeans. We try to go out and buy them. At Christmas, we do buy new shoes, we do buy new jeans for at least the clients that sign up for the Christmas program. And this past year, there was something like 98 unhoused and poor. In fact, some of them were children who were living with their parents in a car. And so there were something like 8 children and 98 adults that we did Christmas bags. We prepared Christmas bags. And these Christmas bags had brand new jeans, used or sometimes brand new shirts, a brand new jacket, brand new underwear, socks, brand new shoes, a towel, a sleeping bag, and a blanket. And then toiletries, of course.
Where do you get the funds? You indicated that the congregations will fill the barrels and fill the buckets. But where do the funds come from for the things that you need to buy?
We have applied for a grant, and through the grant from the county of Riverside, we got a grant, and we used it to buy a washer, a dryer, and to change a room that was a broom closet into a really nice setup where we do our laundry. So that came through a grant. Through a grant, we also we got a room and we had to divide it and create the shelves and all that. And that came also from another grant that we had applied for. But people are very generous. I just have to put it out there, and I think God has been really good, that we are in need of money and people just write me checks. I've been very blessed. I have family that have donated money. I know it costs us a certain amount of money every year to run, because we do pay for the water, we pay for the use of the portable shower unit, and for everything else that we need, the soap, etc. It costs us over $10,000, closer to $15,000 every year. And so far, the money has come in through donations. People have just donated. We also have Sun Lakes, and Sun Lakes Charities gives us about $3,000. There are organizations that have adopted us and that give us a certain amount of money every year. So I've never had to worry about that basic amount. But now that I want to start a mobile dental clinic, that is going to cost over $100,000. And I just tell God that if that's his wish, then I know it will happen. And the reason I would like to have a mobile dental unit is because so much of our health depends on the health of our mouth. And it's not just for the unhoused, it's for women, children, it's for the elderly, those who are indigent, those who are really poor, who do not get to see a dentist, and whose teeth are in such bad shape that I sometimes watch them as they eat. If there's any meat that they have to chew, you see them leave it on the plate, And so I truly believe that if we care for our brothers and sisters that are less fortunate than us, they need to have a chance at better health through dental health.
Prior to doing what you're doing now, did you work outside the home?
Yes, for many years. I was a technical writer for an engineering firm. And so I spent 22 years with Parsons Brinckerhoff writing proposals. In fact, I wrote proposals for the red line, the blue line, the green line, for so many tunnels and, bridges. So I led an exciting life. I did travel and I had a good life.
Why is this now your passion?
I grew up in India and I saw so much poverty. And I know, but it was a different kind of poverty. I see here a poverty of the spirit. It's not so much economic poverty. When people talk about being hungry, they do not realize what hunger really is. We live in a really rich country, But I think there's a lot of mental illness and the fact that families do not take care of their own for whatever reason. It's not a judgment. It's just the way it is. And I think cities and communities are getting less compassionate towards those in need. I think what is happening to us economically, we're going to have the homeless no matter what. You're going to have the people who are unhoused. At one time, in the old days, they had the hobos, right? They rode on the train and they moved from place to place. Now they're here to stay because they grew up in these cities. And for whatever reason, they're unable to find themselves. And I think my hope is that if I talk to them and love them and hear them and listen to them, if I can get them on the right track, not everyone will be able to change their life. And I don't know, in the Bible it says Jesus left 99 sheep to look after the one. So what is our ratio? I don't know. But for me, if that one was my son or my sister or my brother, I would be so grateful to the person who took care of that person. And I just think maybe their parents, nobody knows what we're doing. But I think in the back of their minds, they must be saying to themselves, I hope the person I love is safe. And that's all I can do. That's all I can do.
Southern California's Inland Talk Express is KCAA.
KCAA, the station that leaves no listener behind.
And now, the voices of KCAA with an exciting announcement.
Want to hear NBC News or KCAA anywhere you go?
Well, now there's an app for that.
KCAA is celebrating 25 years and our silver anniversary with a brand new app.
The new KCAA app is now available on your smart device, cell phone, in your car, or any place.
Just search KCAA on Google Play or in the Apple Store.
One touch and you can listen on your car radio, Bluetooth device, Android Auto, or Apple CarPlay.
Catch the KCAA buzz in your earbuds or on the streets, celebrating 25 years of talk, news, and excellence with our new KCAA app.
Just do it and download it. KCAA, celebrating 25 years.
NBC News Radio, I'm Lisa Carton. Vice President J.D. Vance says Americans are already benefiting from the deal with Iran. Speaking at the White House today, Vance said 12.5 million barrels of oil traveled through the Strait of Hormuz overnight and said this is the best outcome.
If the Iranians don't change their behavior, their military and their nuclear program is still destroyed. If they do change their behavior, then they are going to have a transformative relationship with the Middle East.
A memorandum of understanding between the two countries was signed by President Trump yesterday. A retired reconnaissance Marine is being awarded the Medal of Honor by President Trump. Major James Capers Jr. led his team through a deadly ambush in South Vietnam in 1967. Injured and bleeding, Capers got his 9-man team to a helicopter for evacuation after 4 days and nights of fighting. And Wall Street is ending the trading week with stocks higher. Lisa Carton, NBC News Radio.
KCAA.
Let's start with baseball. Yankees with a 5-run fifth crushed the White Sox 10-5 for their 4th straight win. NBA champion Knicks, Jalen Brunson and Josh Hart threw out the ceremonial first pitches, and Cody Bellinger says the Knicks have inspired them.
It's the dream, and, watching them able to accomplish that, and, it takes everyone. So we all are aware of that, and, at the end of the day, though, it's June, and we got to take it day by day.
Dodgers beat the Rays 5-4 to sweep the series in L.A. Yankees now lead the AL East by 3.5 games over the Rays. At the World Cup, Cristiano Ronaldo and Portugal had to settle for a 1-1 draw against the Democratic Republic of the Congo in Houston. England took down Croatia 4-2 in Arlington. NBA Wizards guard Trae Young, according to Mark Spears, plans to decline his $48.97 million player option. That's sports. I'm Rhonda Moss.
your favorite show? Download the podcast at kcaaradio.com.
I'm just a long-haired son of a sinner.
Grammy-winning country singer Jelly Roll filing for divorce from his wife, Bunny XO. That's according to TMZ, who says he first filed for the split in May in Tennessee, the singer citing irreconcilable differences as the result for the split. The couple first met in 2015 and did not get married until August 2016, staying together for a little over a decade. They have had a rocky relationship, with Bunny saying they've split multiple times in the past. The first trailer has been released for Shrek 5.
Once upon a time, a hideous ogre and a delusional donkey.
The footage shows Shrek, Donkey, Fiona, and family on another adventure in a new city. The cast including Mike Myers, Eddie Murphy, Cameron Diaz, and Zendaya. Shrek 5 hits theaters June 30th, 2027. Greta Gerwig's Narnia, the Magician's Nephew, is set to be released in theaters before it streams on Netflix. The Chronicles of Narnia adaptation will hit theaters February 12th and then will hit the streaming giant April 2nd. The cast includes David McKenna, Beatrice Campbell, Daniel Craig, and Meryl Streep.
Help me go home.
Christopher Nolan's The Odyssey is already breaking records in the UK. The BFI IMAX, the UK's largest screen that's located in London, revealing that it sold 28,000 tickets in its first 24 hours. This broke the venue's first-day sales records with a total gross of £750,000 or $1 million. That's entertainment. I'm Jennifer Bolsoni.
KCAA.
With 60 years of fascinating facts, this is the man from yesterday. And back in time we go to this time in 1969. Former Rolling Stone and group member Brian Jones, 26 years old, is taken unconscious from his swimming pool at his home in England and later pronounced deceased. Brian Jones left the Rolling Stones last month here in 1969. And from about this time in 1979, don't miss